Our top story tonight, Jameson Williams is finally free. 2 games early. Jameson Williams is unsuspended by the NFL. The NFL and the NFLPA has renegotiated the way that they do business when it comes to suspending players for gambling. We'll get to that. We'll get to the Lions' win over the Packers. Do they even need Jameson Williams? And we'll get to all the injury news across the NFL as we preview week 4 and more on Player Profiler today. Fantastic news. Absolutely fantastic news for Jameson Williams. He is no longer suspended. 2 games early, Jameson Williams gets off the suspension list. Instead of a 6-game suspension, it is now a 4-game suspension. And if that same error were to happen today, if Jameson Williams, instead of placing that bet in a hotel parking lot months ago, if he were to do that today, Jameson Williams would receive only a 2-game suspension. The NFL has completely changed how things operate with betting on non-NFL games. It's only a 2-game suspension if you bet on a non-NFL game at an NFL facility, which is the practice field, the stadium, team hotel, team plane, all of that. You can't bet there. Team hotels parking lot, can't bet there. That's what got Jameson Williams. But now he is free. But if you bet on NFL games, but not your own team, that's a 1-year suspension minimum. And if you bet on your own team, that's a 2-year suspension at minimum. So Calvin Ridley, instead of just a year suspension, he would end up serving a 2-year suspension for betting on his own team. That is no longer allowed, no longer acceptable. That will be a 2-year ban. So Jameson Williams, if he were to have the same mistake happen again, he would still be suspended a full year for the repeat offense. But for now, Jameson Williams is back. He is back with the Detroit Lions. He's going to be practicing. Hopefully his hamstring injury that he suffered at the end of training camp has cleared up. Hopefully he is okay. But where does Jameson Williams rank in the pecking order? Because it's Amon-Ra St. Brown up here. We all know that. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the alpha. But below him, it's Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta has been pretty damn good. Is Sam Laporta going to be passed by Jameson Williams? Sam Laporta has also been passed by Josh Reynolds at times. So Josh Reynolds, Sam Laporta, they're kind of wide receiver 2 and 3 behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. Is Jameson going to pass either of them? I don't think so. The way this Detroit offense is built, Jameson Williams will have some games where he scores more than Sam Laporta. He'll have some games where he scores more than Josh Reynolds, but this isn't a constant air it out offense. This is a matriculate the ball down the field, get some yards after catch. We're going 5 to 10 to 15 yards. The Lions don't do the 40-yard deep shots as often. Maybe that'll change with Jameson Williams, but it's just not the way this offense has been designed. And then Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is ascending as well, has 4 receptions in his last game. Jahmyr Gibbs, everyone freaking out about Jahmyr Gibbs. We'll get to that in a minute, but Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be fine. Jahmyr Gibbs could end up being the 3rd, 4th in the pecking order for targets. So where does Jameson Williams rank? I think he's at best the 3rd option in the passing game behind Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he's probably 4th behind Josh Reynolds as well. And then you got to worry about Jahmyr Gibbs. So there will be times Jameson Williams is 5th in the pecking order, and that is the nature of the situational deep threat, even a full-time deep threat, which we hope Jameson Williams can be, because Marvin Jones has been terrible and should be off the field. But that's just the nature of the type of player Jameson Williams is. He is a boom-bust deep threat. He's going to have some games. We saw last year that he can go the distance on just one play. He had a touchdown taken away, which would have made his fantasy day as well. Jameson Williams, all the Detroit Lions need from Jameson Williams is for him to catch one deep ball, one deep touchdown. Because if Jameson Williams catches one deep touchdown, now defenses have to respect it. If Jameson Williams, if his hands are as bad as we saw in the preseason and throughout training camp, and he's not able to catch any of these deep balls, well, teams aren't so worried because, yeah, he's going to get behind us. Yeah, he's going to beat us, but it's not going to hurt the offense. All the Lions need from Jameson Williams is one deep touchdown, and that opens up the whole middle of the field, makes life easier for Amon-Ra St. Brown, easier for Sam Laporta, easier for Jahmyr Gibbs. So we'll see. We'll see how good Jameson Williams actually is. He could end up being a star. There is still a world where Jameson Williams, who was talked about as the best wide receiver in that draft class, talked about, could have gone ahead of Garrett Wilson, could have gone ahead of Chris Olave, could have gone ahead of Drake London, were it not for the torn ACL. But it's less likely that Jameson Williams is a true hit. Probably more of a solid NFL contributor, a better in real life than in fantasy football player. And that's exciting for the Detroit Lions. Less exciting for fantasy gamers. You got to live with the inconsistency, with the ups, with the downs. But before we get to more on the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers matchup from last night, we've got a word from the Podfather.
Hey, we're all starting new fantasy leagues all the time. And more often than not, where do we start our fantasy leagues at Player Profiler? On Sleeper. Because it's the best. You can imagine my excitement when I saw Sleeper rolled out. Sleeper picks, baby. And game stacking is the path to positive returns with these pick'em games. Find that sneaky shootout and set most of the players to go over their projection for that week. Or you find a game going to get dragged into the mud and take every member of the passing game for less than their projections that week. And if you pick up to 8, that's how you 100x your payout on Sleeper. It's called the Hail Mary. So if you use promo code Underworld, you get a $100 instant deposit match. Check out Sleeper's terms and conditions for details. These Sleeper picks are live in over 25 states. Yeah, buddy. Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from Player Profiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
Back to the Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers. This was a statement win from the Detroit Lions. This was a must-win game for the Detroit Lions to be who we expect them to be. Obviously, in week 4, a game that'll send you to 2-2, it's not really must-win. But for the Lions, who ended last year as the team no one wanted to face, who began this year as a team good enough to face the Super Bowl champions in the first game of the season, a team that is favored to win the NFC North, the Lions had to beat the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau. They had to go up 3-1. And if they hadn't, the chatter would have started. The whispers would have started. Oh, this is the same old Detroit Lions. They have some hype. Not that team. And then they come out and blow out the Green Bay Packers. Now, I guess it's not a true blowout, only won by 14, but this game was not close in the first half. A couple things happened in the third quarter where the Packers faked like they were getting back into it, and then the Lions put the foot back down on the gas, won the game on the back of David Montgomery. 3 touchdowns, 141 yards on 34 touches. David Montgomery is just Jamal Williams 2.0, a better version of Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams wasn't getting those 2 receptions. Jamal Williams wasn't getting the 140 yards, but David Montgomery is a good football player. And there will be more games where David Montgomery touches the ball 34 times in a blowout, in a game where the Lions are trying to run out the clock. But there will still be games for Jahmyr Gibbs. Everyone's freaking out that Jahmyr Gibbs has only 53 touches through 4 games. He only had 12 touches last night. He only had 51 yards. But Jahmyr Gibbs is still on pace for 1,000 yards from scrimmage as a rookie, which isn't that big of a deal for the 12th overall pick. But it's not like it's been some disaster for Jahmyr Gibbs. And more importantly, in Alvin Kamara's rookie year, through 4 games, he had 43 touches. We have 53 touches from Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is already being used more than Alvin Kamara was as a rookie. Alvin Kamara had to beat out Adrian Peterson, and then he had to beat out Mark Ingram. David Montgomery is Jahmyr Gibbs, Mark Ingram. And even once Jahmyr Gibbs takes over, he's going to split time with David Montgomery. But you drafted him knowing that. Everyone knew that there would be some Jahmyr Gibbs weeks. There'd be some David Montgomery weeks. But because it's been mostly David Montgomery through the first couple weeks, and because you're mad about the touchdown regression from Jahmyr Gibbs, oh, suddenly this is the end of the world. It was a bad pick. The Detroit Lions don't know what they were doing. And so we got to separate this. It was a bad pick taking Jahmyr Gibbs with the 12th overall pick, but not because of how the Lions are using him through 4 games. Look at Jerick McKinnon down the stretch in the Kansas City Chiefs offense. It's okay. The points will come for a receiving back. It's not over. Jahmyr Gibbs is still that guy, but Sam Laporta, also that guy. Sam Laporta is just a must start every week at tight end, unless you got Mark Andrews, unless you got Travis Kelce, unless you got George Kittle. Probably still start George Kittle over Sam Laporta. Outside of that, I'm not starting Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert. It's Sam Laporta for me. And I would like to apologize to everyone that I predicted the Luke Musgrave breakout. But I mean, who expected Luke Musgrave to get a concussion? Because if you did, you're a liar. There's no way that you projected, oh, I'm not playing Luke Musgrave because he's going to get a concussion. You also didn't bench Luke Musgrave thinking, oh, it's going to be a blowout for the Green Bay Packers, because they were in comeback mode after Luke Musgrave leaves with a concussion. So if Luke Musgrave stays healthy, if he finishes that game, he probably digs in to the 9 receptions for 95 yards from Romeo Doubs. Good game from Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs becoming a consistent low-end wide receiver too for the Green Bay Packers. But as Christian Watson gets healthy, as he gets reacclimated into the offense, as he's doing more than 20 snaps per game, which is what he had in his debut, when he gets a full load, this is going to be Christian Watson's offense. He's going to be the one getting the double-digit targets. And we saw it with the touchdown. Touchdown goes to Christian Watson. Wish we got to see more of him, but that will come. Wish we saw more of Aaron Jones as well. Only 14 yards on 6 touches from Aaron Jones. Not a pretty day for the Packers at all. Just awful all around from the Green Bay Packers, but it was nice to see them both return. And speaking of returns, we're going to see Cooper Kupp back in practice this week coming up. He's going to be activated from the injured reserve. That will open a 21-day window for Cooper Kupp to practice. But by all accounts, it sounds like we're going to see Cooper Kupp on the field in week 5. Sounds like there have been no setbacks. Sounds like there was no genetic issue where Cooper Kupp has just a bad hamstring nerve from birth. It's all good. Nothing to worry about Cooper Kupp. He's going to be right back to being a wide receiver 1. And speaking of the Rams, they signed Tyler Higbee to a 3-year deal today, $30.5 million, $17 million guaranteed. So basically a season and a half of guaranteed money for Tyler Higbee. Good job for Tyler Higbee, even though he hasn't really contributed in fantasy. He's doing things in real life. More players that are going to play this week. Going to return. Jalen Waddle clears the concussion protocol. Fantastic news. Miami Dolphins score 70 without him. Let's see what they can do with Jalen Waddle in the lineup. We'll also see Devontae Smith back at practice. He's suffering from some sort of illness. Looks like he's going to be good to go. Brandon Ayuk is good to go. He's off the injury report. We all know his shoulder was bugging him. It was a quick turnaround on Thursday Night Football. An extra 10 days to rest. Brandon Ayuk is fine. His teammate, Deebo Samuel, a little bit more of a question mark. He's got ribs and a knee injury. We didn't see him at the open to media portion of practice today, but he did end up getting a limited session in without his helmet on. So keep an eye on Deebo. Deebo still could end up being inactive for the 49ers. It looks like he's going to play, but I also thought Ayuk looked like he might play. So keep an eye on it. Either way, Brandon Ayuk is a must start. If Deebo's playing, you're playing him. Those are the final thoughts on that. Also, some good news for Jerry Jeudy. He is off the injury report with a knee injury. Kadarius Toney off the injury report with a toe injury, though it's probably a matter of time before Kadarius Toney's back on the injury report. But we'll see when and if and what the new injury is for Kadarius Toney. And Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's off the injury report as well. He practiced in full all week long. Joe Burrow, the calf isn't healthy. Being removed from the injury report does not mean healthy. But Joe Burrow able to get in a full practice session 3 days this week. Great sign. Joe Burrow is healing. The Bengals are on the mend. It's only a matter of time before the Cincinnati Bengals get back on track. So congratulations to Joe Burrow. Excited to see him allegedly healthy, or at least healthier, against this pass funnel Tennessee Titans defense. Speaking of the AFC South, Anthony Richardson is back. He's practicing in full. He's cleared from the concussion, and he's going to start once again. Anthony Richardson is just better than Gardner Minshew. And I know there are the Gardner Minshew stands out there. Gardner Minshew's a lot of fun, but Anthony Richardson is just legit good. Speaking of rookies, we're also going to see Bryce Young back in the lineup, something I didn't expect, something the Panthers didn't expect. They thought Bryce Young was going to be out for 2 games, but he attacked his rehab super aggressively, was able to practice in full all week long. Bryce Young is back, which I think is bad news for fantasy. I mean, the Panthers against the Minnesota Vikings, that was kind of juicy with Andy Dalton under center. After what we saw against the Seattle Seahawks, I was kind of excited about this. And then Bryce Young's back in. And DJ Chark, he is dealing with a hamstring injury. He's questionable. Jonathan Mingo, questionable coming off concussion. Looks like he's probably going to play, though. Miles Sanders, questionable with a hamstring injury, groin injury. I forget what Miles Sanders, I think it's a groin injury for Miles Sanders. They're optimistic that he plays, but it's the Panthers with Bryce Young. I don't know what this offense is going to look like. I really don't trust it. Some of you out there probably trust Adam Thielen over his past couple games, and he's not as dusty as I thought he was, but we'll see what happens in the Adam Thielen revenge game against the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, there are certainly worse options out there at this point. Just doesn't have the juice of if Andy Dalton was still starting. Unfortunately, it's not all good news on the injury front. Austin Eckler, he is limited once again today. Austin Eckler gets a limited practice in all week, but he listed as doubtful on the final injury report. He's going to warm up. He's going to put his jersey on. He's going to see what he can do, but more than likely, Austin Eckler is not playing this weekend. It looks like it's going to be 3 games that Austin Eckler misses with his high ankle sprain, which is pretty normal. This is a 4-week injury, a high ankle sprain. You should miss 4 games with a high ankle sprain. You should be put on injured reserve when you get a high ankle sprain just by default. But Austin Eckler is a warrior. He wants to come back early, so you get it. Sounds like he's going to play the week after next, because remember, the Los Angeles Chargers have a bye week, which probably adds to this decision to sit Austin Eckler, sits this week, then doesn't have a game the next week, so it ends up getting the full 4 weeks off for Austin Eckler. So that's probably what ends up happening, but we'll see. Maybe Austin Eckler surprises everyone and maybe he plays. Same with Saquon Barkley. It does not seem like there's a lot of optimism that Saquon Barkley is going to play. He's been doing individual drills in practice, but again, a high ankle sprain is a 4-week injury. You should miss 4 games. You should go on injured reserve. But these guys are psychos in the best way possible. They want to be out there. They want to do things that are superhuman. And so Saquon Barkley is pretending that he could end up playing on Monday against the Seattle Seahawks. And if he did play, he would be a must start because it's the Seattle Seahawks and they are not particularly good on defense. But it's not going to happen. And he plays Monday. So you have to make this decision now. You've got to make this decision before Sunday morning, especially if you have any Atlanta Falcons or Jacksonville Jaguars, because they play in the morning. So just err on the side of caution. Unless Saquon Barkley gets a miraculous full practice in tomorrow, he's not playing. And if he does, you can take that loss. You can take that hit. It's okay to sit Saquon Barkley at a safety when you have no other options. So Saquon Barkley probably not playing. Austin Eckler probably not playing. Not sure about Elijah Mitchell. He didn't practice today with a knee injury. He is officially questionable. Oh, Elijah Mitchell, just the constant injuries. You hate to see it. Hopefully he can get healthy soon. Looks like Christian McCaffrey is headed for 100% snaps once again. Jordan Mason would be the RB2. Tyrion Davis-Price would be the RB3. We have some other bad news around the NFL. Deshaun Watson doesn't throw once again. Deshaun Watson has missed several practices this week where he's been out there at practice in his jersey doing handoffs, but he's not throwing with shoulder soreness. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is getting prepared to play. Watson says he's going to be out there. Watson says he's going to play. And part of that is probably because he knows how good Dorian Thompson-Robinson is and doesn't want to open the door, doesn't want to open that conversation of could Deshaun Watson end up getting benched at some point? Was this contract a mistake, which we all know it is a mistake? So Deshaun Watson probably plays. Slight downgrade on all of his pass catchers because of the shoulder injury. And at some point, we might see Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And if he is playing, oh, he's intriguing in super flex. The mobility of DTR, the arm of DTR, this is an exciting player if he ever gets live NFL reps. He's the kind of guy you want on your super flex roster. We also have Jimmy Garoppolo, who is still going through the concussion protocol, remains questionable. He is trending towards playing, but it's no lock. Either way, against the Los Angeles Chargers, this should be a win for the Chargers with or without Jimmy G. Looks like Jimmy G probably in, but make sure you pay attention. Make sure you follow along. It's not like you're sitting Devontae Adams, even with Brian Hoyer. He is just that good. He is that electric. And there's always the hope that Brian Hoyer gets benched for Aiden O'Connell, who might have a live arm, might be pretty good at football. Also, other news around the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens are going to be without Odell Beckham. He's out with an ankle injury. Rashad Bateman's out with a hamstring. Ronnie Stanley's out with a knee injury, their left tackle. Top two edge rushers, Jason Owe, Odafe Owe, and David Ajabo. They are both out. Marlon Humphrey is out as well, but Justice Hill is going to be back. Justice Hill didn't practice last week, didn't play last week with a toe injury. He's back. Looks like he's going to suit up. Looks like Gus Edwards will come out of the concussion protocol as well. You know, though, I prefer Justice Hill. He's the one running all of the routes. He's the one getting the first crack on the goal line. Justice Hill is a must roster in fantasy football. Going to be without Zay Jones. He is not. I think he made the trip to London with the Jaguars, but he's not going to play this week with a knee injury. Treylon Burks not going to play this week with a knee injury. River Craycraft heading to IR for the Miami Dolphins. Charlie Jones headed to injured reserve. Charlie Football, as he's also known for the Cincinnati Bengals, he's headed to injured reserve. The Chargers are going to be without their center, Corey Linsley. He is dealing with a non-emergent heart issue, so he's going to be out at least 4 games with Corey Linsley. A speedy recovery. Former Packers center. Packers are going to be without their left tackle, David Bakhtiari, for likely the rest of the season. He just got a scope, has a second knee surgery planned. David Bakhtiari going to hit free agency next year. Probably not going to be back with the Green Bay Packers, and we'll see where he ends up. We'll see what team is willing to take a risk on David Bakhtiari after 2 more knee surgeries. Speaking of offensive tackles, they are also going to be out for the Houston Texans. No Laramie Tunsil, no Josh Jones. I was tempted to play CJ Stroud. I was. And I still might, given Deshaun Watson's shoulder soreness in the Scott Fish Bowl, but CJ Stroud is... the offensive line he's got in front of him is just so terrible. So good luck to CJ Stroud. I still believe in him. Just makes it harder to play him with both offensive tackles out against TJ Watt, but I'm still thinking about it. We're also going to see the debut of Damar Hamlin. Jordan Poyer, star safety for the Buffalo Bills. He is out with a knee injury, and so Damar Hamlin is going to dress for the first time this season, and the standing ovation that he is going to get, oh, that's going to be beautiful. That is going to be a sight to see. Going to bring a tear to the eye. Congrats to Damar Hamlin. We'll see how much playing time he actually ends up getting. Jordan Poyer is more of a strong safety, so it'll probably be Taylor Rapp on the field instead. Damar Hamlin more of the backup to Micah Hyde, the free safety, but we'll probably see him on special teams, and we'll see if we get an appearance for Damar Hamlin on the field. Speaking of the Buffalo Bills, their opponents, the Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, is the AFC Offensive Player of the Month, which is well-deserved. Tua Tagovailoa has been dominating. Miami Dolphins have been rolling. It's a great sight to see for Tua Tagovailoa. It's great that he's still playing in the NFL, period. But what he's done over the first month of the season, electric, incredible. So happy for Tua Tagovailoa, and also happy for Christian McCaffrey, who is the NFC Player of the Month. On defense, we got TJ Watt and Micah Parsons. That makes sense. You could also give it to Myles Garrett in the AFC, maybe Max Crosby in the AFC as well. In the NFC, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be in the conversation in short order. Aiden Hutchinson has 8 more pressures than any other player in the NFL. So if Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, and Myles Garrett want to match or pass Aiden Hutchinson in pressures, they got to put up 8 this week, which is a hefty order. And on the defensive side, CJ Stroud, talked about him earlier. He is the AFC he is the offensive rookie of the month of September. Christian Gonzalez is the defensive rookie for the month of September. And final bits of news and notes around the NFL. We are hearing trade rumors across the NFL with the trade deadline approaching. Davante Adams, his name is being thrown around there, which we have talked about. We thought it would be the Jets. Maybe it could be the Detroit Lions, but wouldn't it be nice to see Davante Adams on a team with Super Bowl aspirations? Jonathan Taylor is also in the conversation for trade talks. He has been all along. Things aren't going well with the Indianapolis Colts. He still doesn't want to be there. He still doesn't want to play there. Still wants out. So Jonathan Taylor could be on the move, could be traded. Michael Carter, the Jets' third down running back, could end up being traded. Dalvin Cook getting a lot of snaps. Michael Carter not happy with his role. They've got Izzy Abanikanda on the bench, or not dressing as well. So Michael Carter could be traded. We're hearing Ryan Tannehill could be on the move. Do the New York Jets make a move for Ryan Tannehill to get a competent quarterback? Who would you rather have, Ryan Tannehill or Carson Wentz? I think I go with Tannehill at this point because I want a steady veteran. I want a guy who can just steer the ship. Carson Wentz, kind of the opposite of steady. He's pretty erratic. So give me Ryan Tannehill over Carson Wentz. Maybe he ends up with the New York Jets. On defense, Budda Baker, the safety for the Arizona Cardinals, he signed a new contract recently, so I don't think he actually should be on this list, but he's still in those trade talks, those trade rumors. Patrick Queen for the Baltimore Ravens after they drafted an inside linebacker in the 3rd round, and Derek Barnett for the Philadelphia Eagles. He requested a trade earlier this year. But one player who will not be traded is Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool obviously was traded last year from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Chicago Bears. One of the worst trade deals in the history of trade deals, trading Chase Claypool for what was essentially a 1st-round pick, the 32nd overall pick in the NFL draft, because the Dolphins lost their pick, essentially a 1st-round pick. Steelers use it on Joey Porter Jr. Bears could use Joey Porter Jr. Bears could use a lot of players right now. But Chase Claypool, not going to be traded, because who wants Chase Claypool, first and foremost? Who wants to have him on the roster? But also, maybe he's not on the Chicago Bears going forward. Chase Claypool was asked if he is being used in the right way to maximize his strengths, and Chase Claypool said no. And it's just another sign. It is just more evidence that the Chicago Bears are a dumpster fire. The Chicago Bears are going to be going through a complete overhaul after the 2023 season. They're going to have a new head coach. They should have a new general manager. Unfortunately, Ryan Poles just a little bit too young, a little bit too early on the job. I think he is good at what he does. I just think he was in over his head with the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields going to be on his way out, going to be starting for the Atlanta Falcons or some other team. But the Chicago Bears are about to blow it up.